Good evening. You're listening to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Indian Hills Studios, next to a tiny dwarf lake. Tonight, we have a very special episode of Kicking It, and that's talking about this movie that came out in 2015 called Hardcore Henry, a Russian film that might be described better as more of a video game than a movie, but that's one of the biggest interesting things about this film. It's definitely extreme. It's definitely worth discussing. It's different, and I kind of like it. But is it good? I'm not so sure. We're going to find out. I have with me today RDV. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great.
So I've not seen this film until the other day. I had heard the name. I knew Tim Roth, I think, was supposed to be in it. I think that's perhaps why I heard it, because I like him. Obviously, this is a small micro-budget film, which I have a tendency to be attracted to in general, just due to the non-Hollywood nature of these things. And it is Russian, which might give it a bit of a different edge. But I have to say, my initial impressions are it's an average film, done great. It's interesting. Visually, it's very stimulating. It's very exhaustive. But I've got one major flaw with the RDV, and that's this. I don't hate the main guy. I like all the stuff that happens. And even though it's like being in a video game, I don't care about the main character. So I just feel like I'm watching an extended opening cut of some interactive video game, which a lot of video games are these days. It's a lot more cutscenes than action. What do you think?
Well, it was actually meant to be a video game thing. Not actually a video game, but a video game-like movie. And as Pixel said, and when we did our watch party through this, they had about 8 different stunt actors play the main guy. So you see him doing the parkour, so it's a different guy when he's doing different stunts. So none of it's, as far as CG, when he's doing those the running or jumping, so that none of that's edited out where he's from a green screen. No, it actually is happening. And I understand the main character is kind of weak. Well, they took away his voice modulator. Now the thing is that if they would have had his voice in there, it would have been hard to have the 8 different stunt guys doing stuff, because then you have the dialogue. Unless you're gonna have a guy jump in and then do dialogue and certain things, I guess you could do that. But the main thing
let's stop right there for a second. Just as people are listening to this, let's just explain real quickly what the movie's about. Then I want you to continue. Basically, this movie opens up. It's about, and it's in first-person point of view. It's filmed with GoPro cameras attached to the guy's body. And so it's like you're playing a video game in third person. You're right. There's a ton of parkour, a bunch of cool-looking stuff in here, which we'll talk about in a moment, which I think is awesome. But you see this guy who basically you're going, okay, it's like a cyberpunk type thing where he's going to be getting some mods in his body, or basically kind of get recalibrated by this beautiful woman claiming to be his wife. Of course, claiming to be his wife is cue for it's really not his wife, which we find out at the end, which is kind of cool actually too. I like the ending. But so the story is basically about him surviving, and within 2 minutes, it's a great hook. You're dropped into this, and it's exhaustive. It just does not stop. It's like the movie Crank, minus the main character talking that much, and it's people talking to you. It's super immersive. So go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I agree with you. I brought that up too. It reminded me of Crank. The whole entire time, it's just nonstop action. I love that. You even have the guy character named Jimmy in there. And Jimmy, it was just so weird because when Pixar watches, he first meets Jimmy in a car, and then that Jimmy dies in a car accident, and then he sees him on a bus, and then he gets one of the best scenes in the movie. He's like, look at that! Here they go. He's just making fun of the guy's costume. Oh, those flamboyant costume I've ever seen, and it gets lit on fire. Because the guy's a flamethrower.
Yes.
And then we find out that there's another Jimmy. And there's a whole bunch of different Jimmys, and you're like, and I'm watching this like, what is going on? Maybe Pixar is so confused. You're like, but regardless, we love the character Jimmy. Jimmy brought the comedy to the film. The main character Henry, all we know from him is that he woke up. He is missing a leg and an arm, a left leg and a left arm. And this woman complained to his wife. Attached to the cybernetic, but the thing is, they didn't have a chance to do his vocal cords, that before they're attacked by the main villain. So he tries to escape with her, but she ends up getting kidnapped, and now he's trying to save her. So as you're playing through, it's like, and I understand most people want more character growth out of the guy, but it doesn't really happen until the very end,
right?
Because we do see flashbacks of his childhood. when he got beat up and they threw his toy against the wall.
Yes.
Yeah. So, because at first we were like, "What's all this about?" Until it makes sense till later on in the movie, towards the end, and like, "Oh, so that's what." Okay. But I understand. Yeah, as far as for being a high class movie, it works better because it doesn't need to have Bruce Willis. You could have anybody in there that proved it so well. And for being a low budget foreign film, I thought it was done tremendously. Like I said, nonstop action. You got the beautiful girl he's trying to save. You've got the parkour. You got the server room when the guy's in there trying to fight him. It's like, and they're it's he said it's just good old fashioned fun. It's a guy movie.
It is. It's very intense. It's actually fairly graphic too. It's bordering on gratuitous violence, which isn't a bad thing. But the violence in there seems somewhat realistic. But it is very video game-ish a lot, and it's not a bad thing because it's not cartoonish, but it's so absurd. You're like, oh my god! But it's so breathtaking watching like the fact that when him and his so-called wife basically get attacked at the beginning, and they're finding the way through the bottom of like the lab or that, and they're going through like this little ductwork. And he opens up the door thinking he's gonna get out, and then they realize they're on a plane. You're like, holy crap! But then there's like an escape thing, and they land on the ground. I mean, this thing just, you don't know where it's gonna go, which is breathtaking. The shots are fantastic, and then like, one of the things I liked about it is there is a lot of parkour in it. And I know you said that a lot of that is actual real and not CGI. I hope that's true, because when you watch it, it's very breathtaking the way they do it. And it's cool to see it. So you don't know exactly when there's going to be a chase, when there's going to be running around or anything. And I think one of the best scenes to me that does this is early on, when he's running through the subway, and then he's in the mall, and he's got the bag of clothes that he's trying to change into, and the girl's just watching him. I mean, this is a video game that you're like, man, I want to play this, except for it's a movie.
Yeah, I kept saying
his lack of character. It's like, I don't hate the guy. I like what he's trying to do. I get it. But just a little bit more somehow of getting you hooked into there, I think would have just put this really over the top.
It brings it back to those old school video games, the PC ones where the main character didn't speak over, but it's like Command and Conquer. You do things, and then you have the video of people talking to you. It's kind of like that, as far as a sense of a kind of game it would be if you played the game. Like I said, there was one guy. They had one of the stuntmen actually. When he was doing something, he had a harness on, and he hurt himself because he dropped. He let go. I'm not sure if it was the one where he jumped onto the trucks while they're moving to try and get to her, or if it was when he was climbing and he let go. All I know is that one of the guys he hurt himself because the harness dug into him when he fell, so he wasn't prepared. But yeah, I said, like, the main villain, he's kind of weird. He's got paranormal powers. He's got, and he reminds me of some guy off of Sprockets. He's supposed to be Russian, but he's got the Albert Einstein hair going, and he might as well have like the black necktie. I mean, this is
trash looking kind of bad dude.
Akon, I think was the name. They said there actually is a comic book that is prior to this, a prequel, about how Akon got his powers. So in this movie, he's basically building his own army, and Henry is there basically trying to save his own wife, or that we know of as his wife. We're not sure until we find out the end. I don't really want to give you spoilers, really, but like I said, it's a fun movie. I usually don't like movies that are they're not big names in them, because you always get stuck with the ones like, well, that just sucked, but this actually took a chance on this. Me and Pix would watch it because it was in first person, and when we watched it, I was like, holy crap! And I was like, do you imagine watching this in the IMAX? That's what I want to do. I just go to the Dinky helicopter thing in the IMAX. You go to the museum. No, I want to watch this movie in the IMAX. Oh my gosh! When he's doing the parkour thing, you'd be like jumping with them. It's like, well,
then that's the thing too. Is on YouTube and other streaming places, there are people that do these extreme things where they're climbing without a harness over a real high building, and they've got their GoPros. There's a lot of this. Not just ecotourism with people going to places now and being able to take shots. There's also the extreme sort of tourism in a sense, where people are going to places that they probably shouldn't and taking videos and everything.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's not going to go away. So the fact that they integrated in here rather successfully on such a low budget, I think is tremendous. You don't have to have a $200 million budgeted movie like Mission Impossible series where you have great stunts. And we love the Mission Impossible movies. We think they're fantastic. But again, this is like a $2 million movie basically with GoPros in high def that they're able to kind of cut and string together and make it look absolutely phenomenal. You can almost tell no difference between the two.
Yep.
And again, the acting may be kind of thin, and it is to me, but the action, what they do with it, like I say, it's breathtaking. It's nonstop. It's a bit tiring in a sense because you almost don't get a chance to breathe. And so the one or two scenes, like when they go to slow things down for a moment, you're not quite sure how long that's going to last because there's no tempo to it. So there's not that variation that may happen during the normal course of watching a film where, there's this ebb and flow. That's another little thing that is tough. It's a all out sprint and it goes really, really long. And even the scene where they're in the strip club with all the women and you're seeing the guy there who's all, coked up and they have the big
that's Jimmy.
like, wow. Yeah. It's
Jimmy. There's multiple Jimmys. You find out the movie. It's like, and he's freaking out because here's like, there's Jimmy here, and then there's, excuse me, I'm Dr. Jimmy. It's like, what? It's like,
well, the character Jimmy basically, like the guy who's helping him out, but he's able to figure out how he's made his body. I thought, and it might have been the copy I was watching, somehow, even though they were speaking English, and the accents really weren't too hard, I felt like it was a little difficult for me to pick out some of what he was saying. So I don't know if that was just the dub or if the mix was or whatever. So, like I said, maybe my copy, but ultimately, this guy's creating these bodies basically that you're able to put these implants in and use that. So this whole cyberpunk cybernetic thing in there, it's kind of cool because we got the movie of this coming out, but we've heard about this idea for a long time now, but now it's starting to get practical in real life. So I think it was a good movie overall. It's definitely worth watching if you want something intense and all that. I don't have anything bad to say about it.
No, it's currently on Netflix. The copy that me and Netflix, we have no problem understanding what they're saying.
Yeah.
If anything, we're laughing the whole entire time because of just how awesome it is.
Well, there's been talk about a sequel. I don't know that it'll happen. It may at some point. There's another movie that the guy's involved with that's supposed to be coming out next year, and maybe if that's successful, then they'll go straight to another sequel. Because this is the type of movie that if it was Americanized, would say, would be under the Blumhouse name because they're micro budgets. They get right on with it. It did okay the first week, not great. It didn't do as well as it was, I guess, projected to be. So it was one of the biggest movies ever that got a lot of theaters taken away from it at the time I was reading. So I'm like, okay, well, that's the movie business, But again, a small micro budget movie like that doesn't necessarily require a lot in terms of return on investment. You can get that back pretty quick, especially with video on demand type services. So be interesting. The guy definitely had a vision. It was definitely executed well. It's just the number one rule of movies is why the hell do I care was violated. And unfortunately, that's the biggest flaw to me. But that being said, it's still watchable. It's very exciting. I didn't think it was going to be all out balls to the wall stop all the way till the movie stopped. I really didn't. So I got to give it credit for that. It did surprise me, but I did like the stunt work more than the shootouts with the guns, and kind of wish it did a little bit more of that and showed, hey, this guy's a cybernetic dude. We understood that he'd overheat a little bit. He's got this and that. I wanted to see a little bit maybe more use of that rather than
I like the fact that he had to recharge his batteries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And when Jimmy told me, he's like, yeah, your batteries are you're gonna shut down unless we get you a battery, or get the cable, and he kills that guy, rolls over his chest and gets the battery part and put in the charger cable.
That's cool.
The phone charger.
There's some video games of the Stalker franchise that was kind of interesting, and there's going to be supposedly a newer one coming out next year or two. And there's something to be said about a movie made in a different culture, and that's one thing I'll close with this for my final thoughts is that one of the things I also loved about it too, the fact that they filmed with GoPros and everything, is I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like a lot of what was being filmed were just people in whatever city they filmed it in. That they're just like, well, just people with GoPros, what the hell's going on? Because when you watch people's reactions and you get to see the cityscapes that they're in and even the countryside that they're in, that's all, I'm in a Russian wilderness, whatever you want to call it. It's pretty awesome to see something like it. It's not like, oh, that's LA. It's not, the bright lights and the big city. It's grimy, it's grungy, it's European. You see the way people are dressed differently. It was refreshing.
It made more sense for Jimmy's hideout to be like in that abandoned mall, whatever complex it was.
Yes,
because over in parts of Ukraine and near Russia, there are abandoned buildings like that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they have a sequel. We'll definitely look forward to catching that one too.
Or a video game, man.
Right. Yeah, Hardcore Henry, ladies and gentlemen. It's definitely extreme. It's definitely worth checking out. It's not War and Peace. It's not any of that kind of stuff, but it's pretty intense, and we like it a lot. So thanks for joining RDV, and for all you guys listening, check out Hardcore Henry, currently playing on Netflix. Another successful episode here on Kicking It. I'm Rob. As always, guys, thanks for listening, and remember, stay extreme.
Later, guys.